Hello everybody, welcome to a little weekend reading vlog for the amazing readathon. We're actually in face-off weekend right now, which is really fun. We have this whole boss battle situation going on. I am co-hosting Team Pandorica with Mel from Melanor Reads, who has her channel back, which is so exciting. If you missed all that drama, she got hacked and lost access to her channel, but the internet banded together and her channel is back. This readathon is hosted by Bree from Four Paws in a Book, and I will have all of the information linked down below. If I look a little overdone right now, it's because I am. We have rehearsal for the play I'm in, which is called Five Women Wearing the Same Dress, and then after rehearsal, we are having a photo shoot. So we're all bridesmaids, so we're doing a photo shoot inspired by the movie Bridesmaids afterwards. So I just went ahead and put all of my ridiculous stage makeup on. I also dyed my hair last night. It was kind of like this cherry cola red color, which was fun, but when it grows out, my roots were showing and my grays were showing. I don't feel 36 most of the time, but when I see those little white hairs peek through, I'm like, okay, I'm not ready for that yet. When I am ready, it's gonna look so good, but I'm not ready for it yet. I also wanted to give you guys a recap of what I read during the week. I didn't vlog this week, and it's the lamest excuse ever, but I didn't vlog because I was so hot. I never wanted to get ready. I just wanted to sit in as few clothes as possible in front of my fan, and that's where I spent all of my time reading. So that is why there have been no updates. So for the third leg, we had to read a book with a preposition in the title, and I read Dissection of a Murder by Joe Murray. I just put lotion on my hands. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll clean it, I promise. This is a very interesting look in the UK judicial system, which I don't really know about. And in fact, my only experience with the US judicial system comes from two things. The time when I was on jury duty that I barely remember, it was like a stolen car case, and it ended up we didn't have to do that much because the car wasn't stolen in the county where we were having court, so it ended up not mattering. And then the show Jury Duty, which is really just an acting improv show. So I learned a lot about this, but we're following our main character whose name is Layla, and she is a, I guess, lawyer in the English system, an attorney. Her husband is also an attorney, and he's higher ranked in the attorney leveling system than she is, so he gets a lot of murder cases and she doesn't. However, there has been a murder of a judge, and the person accused of the murder wants her to defend him. So while she doesn't normally do murder cases, she does step up, and she happens to be going against her husband in court. And there's multiple things going on here. So we get a POV from Layla as she's researching the case and doing a little bit of investigative work. We also get a POV of somebody called Witness X, who we don't really know, but they are giving us insights into other snippets of the murder. And then we are getting some other POVs here and out. But this was really twisty. I thought it was going to be pure legal courtroom drama, and it definitely isn't. There's some domestic things going on here. It really does keep you on your toes while still being a legal thriller. So I had a really good time with this one. The main twist did surprise me, which is something I complain about with thrillers a lot, is not being surprised. So I gave this one 4 stars. And then today I finished listening to Yesteryear by Carol Claire Burke, and oh boy, what a mind F. This book is if Ballerina Farms and Ruby Frankie and the Oregon Trail and time traveling had a baby. I don't know how 4 things could have a baby together, but that's what this book felt like. So we are following Natalie, who has married the perfect cowboy, and they have bought a ranch. Her father-in-law is in politics. She grew up super Christian, and she is showing this version of herself to the world that is very much trad wife. Everything's organic. We grow our own food. I only put cream from my own cows in my coffee. Buy all of our merch. It is locally sourced, never made in China. But then you get her internal monologue, and she is not a nice person. She is constantly judging and cussing, and then going, "I'm sorry, Lord, that I said that." We also get another timeline from her growing up and her being in college. She went to Harvard, but she was one of the only super conservative conservative people there. And just like her inner monologue as she is looking on all of these other people who are, you know, partying and hooking up in college because they're college aged kids. She is such a judgmental BIT. She just is. You don't like her. But one day she wakes up and is back in the 1800s when like every wife was a trad wife, when you had to make your own bread and you had to scrub all of your clothes by hand and you didn't have all of these modern conveniences like washing machines. And that part of the book really does play out like a horror story. She's married to a man in that. There are some triggers I would look up. I mean, she's married to a man in both timelines, but like the 1800s version of her that is married to a man, look up some content warnings. But it's just so interesting because the picture that she paints of herself on social media is like this loving mother. She can't tell you more than one defining word about each of her kids. Like, she doesn't really interact with them. She has nannies and she has help around the farm, but she doesn't want to show that on social media. She wants it to come across as she and her husband are doing all of this. They are being true homesteaders. Jesus in America. Now, I am a Christian. I am not the Christian that is portrayed in this book, and I just want to get that clear. But this book took me on a lot of twists and turns. I said that about the other book too, but wow. I had to put this down when I was finished with it and just like stare at the wall for a second and disassociate's not the right word, but like clarify in my head that I understood what I just read. I think if the Ballerina Farms and the Ruby Frankie stuff like got your attention, I would read it. So let's talk about face-off weekend now. We get points for pages and not just completing books. And I actually have a couple of books that are unfinished from the readathon. So I started Best Offer Wins and Conform both during Escape the Readathon. They're both on my Kindle and I didn't finish them. So I thought it would be a really good idea to try and finish them this weekend. This weekend is also a little bit busy for me because it is my best friend's birthday tomorrow and we're gonna go take a little day adventure to a town that's, I don't even know how far away it is, but we're gonna get coffee there. It's where the like Jim Henson Muppet Museum is, because if you didn't know, Jim Henson is a Mississippian. And there's also a pizza place that is like top 10 pizza places in the US. So we're gonna go get pizza. That's what he asked for his birthday. So I'm not going to be very present in the Discord or sprints or anything this weekend, unfortunately, but I am going to take my Kindle with me in the car and maybe get a little bit of reading in. I'm also like a late night Kindle reader. Now that it's summer break, I am not going to sleep at a regular time. I'm staying up until like 1 or 2 in the morning and waking up at like 10, which is where I thrive, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. So I will be reading tonight. I'll probably read a lot of Best Offer Wins tonight. I have rehearsal in about 40 minutes, so I'm gonna review my lines. We open a week from today. Like, I'm nervous, but I'm excited, so I hope it goes well tonight. I have a couple trouble spots with my memorization that I've been struggling with, so that's why I want to review before I go. And I just hope that I'm able to like apply all of the notes and like constructive feedback that I've been given. I've been doing some stuff really well, and then I've been given some like things to try or things to improve on, so I'm gonna try all of those things tonight. So let me get to practicing and I will see you when I see you. Okay. We're now at Saturday, and I was so excited to read last night, and I got in bed, and would you know it, I fell asleep. But we're reading Best Offer Wins, and I am Hey, you want to talk? Oh my gosh, you never want to talk to the vlog. What you want to say? Okay, bye. Let me tell you what this book is about now that I'm 40% of the way through. Again, this is leftover from Escape the Readathon, but we are following our main character, Margot, and Margot wants a lot of things out of life. She wants to be a mom, and she wants to have a house. Those two things are kind of the defining characteristics about her. Nothing else in life matters except having a house. They live in an apartment right now, she and her husband Ian, and she just does not feel like she can start her life and start motherhood until they have a house. They live in DC, and the housing market there is crazy, is crap. And so one day she hears about this house that is little roadside random Jim Henson Boyhood Museum is the coolest thing. Like, so cool. I got my nephew a couple little Kermit happies, but I'm really glad that we stopped here.
Let's do a strawberry fruit smoothie. Thank you so much.
I think the last time I was talking to you was when I was explaining what I was going to read on our day trip, and then my friend that I was going on the trip with knocked on the door, and then we set off on our adventure. So I never finished talking about the book. So I'm going to do that in a second, but our trip was so much fun. We just went for the day. We went to the Jim Henson Boyhood Experience, which I did talk about a little bit, and it was just this really, really small, like, roadside hut that had all this Muppet stuff and Jim Henson stuff. Like, people in Leland just must have been chronicling like every newspaper article they could find about this man. But I don't know, it was really nostalgic and sentimental. I got my nephew a couple of little presents there. I haven't given them to him yet, but I got him a little Froggy headband and a little stuffed Kermit. And then we went to a thrift store, and it was cool. And I think thrifting is really cool. So please take that first before what I'm going to say. I cannot stand the smell of thrift stores. It makes me feel internally sick. So I had a little bit of trouble in there. I saw some really cool things. I saw a legit, like, from 1994 stuffed Simba, and it was so hard for me not to take that little guy home, but it smelled like the thrift store, so I couldn't. Then we went to the Grammy Museum, which a couple months ago they had an entire Taylor Swift exhibit, which I would have been in heaven for, but that exhibit has since moved on, and now it's like an 80s rock exhibit, which was still really cool. They still had a couple Taylor Swift things in there, so I saw the dress she wore to, I believe, the 2017 Grammys, something like that. And then they also had one of her more recent outfits, and they still had some big pictures of her. But they had like Michael Jackson outfits. They had a lot of local to Mississippi Grammy outfits. They had Katy Perry's music video dress she wore in California Girls that has like the peppermints that spin. Harry Styles sequin overalls were there. Just really cool. Gene Simmons like Axe bass was there. So there was just a lot to look at and see. Really cool thing to just have in Mississippi, and I'm proud of the state that I live in most of the time. There's definitely things that could be improved upon and changed, but I think that the only way to improve upon things and see them changed is to live here and to care about where I live and care about moving my state in the right direction. Not that I can single-handedly do that, but it takes people invested in where you're from and invested in the change that they want to see happen to make it happen. Anyway, I could keep going. We went to a little place called Zoe's Coffee, which all of the coffee drinks were Lion King themed, which Lion King is my favorite movie. So I got a Rafiki Friday frappe. Normally I'm not like a blended coffee person, but it was so hot and I was so tired. I was like, give me the sugar and give me the caffeine. And then we finally got in line for Lena's at 4:30, which is when they opened, and we were thinking we were going to be like the first ones there, but I guess the buzz has really gotten out because we waited in line, and we got a meat lovers pizza, and then we split a peach Biscoff cheesecake, and we were really excited about this lemon tiramisu that was on their Instagram, but they had sold out a couple days before, so we split a Biscoff tiramisu. Everything was so good, like completely worth the hype, completely worth the trip out there, worth getting in line at 4:30. And I think my friend had a really good birthday. And then on the way back, we're both theater people, so we listened to the Operation Mincemeat original Broadway cast recording, or it might have been the West End recording, I'm not sure. That is a fun musical. That's a fun musical. Okay, so I did get a little bit of reading in and finished Best Offer Wins. This is by Marissa Cashino. And I don't remember what I was talking about. Cool. I don't remember what I was talking about when I was mentioning this book, but we're following this couple, Ian and, what's her name, Natalie? I think it's Natalie. It's in first person, so we don't hear her name. No, Natalie is definitely not it. Natalie is the name of somebody else in the book. It doesn't matter. We're in first person, so we don't hear her name that often. But they are trying to buy a house in DC, and she feels like her life cannot start until she has a house. She can't have a kid till she has a house. She can't have a dog till she has a house. She can't be happy until she has a house. And she is hyper fixated, obsessed with getting a house. And then when she hears about a house, she becomes hyper fixated on that house and that house alone. No other house will do. Like, stalks the couple that is living there, gets in with them, like tries to be a friend and gets invited to dinner, but really she's just kind of like stalking the house out and being like, oh, I can imagine myself with a little kid in this living room and making dinner in this kitchen. And she's a little cuckoo cuckoo. She is. So the book progresses like that. You have so much secondhand cringe and embarrassment because of the choices the main character is making. Like, Lord have mercy. Her job becomes her last priority. She uses her job as a cover for some of the unhinged things that she does. Truly don't understand how she stays employed. The interactions that she has with people are just psycho. They just are. And then the end of this book, I'm not going to give anything away, but it got like, this is where the unhinged was, and I felt like the unhinged was pretty unhinged. And then the end of the book, the unhinged went like off of the charts. So there's my feelings about Best Offer Wins. I gave it 4 stars. Now, leg 5. We started this yesterday, but I have not picked up a book for this yet because I was finishing Best Offer Wins. I really was not in the mood to put a book down and pick another book up. So I think I'm going to start Japanese Gothic for this book. From what I understand, most of the book does take place in this house. We're following 2 very separate timelines. October 2026 with Lee Turner not remembering how or why he killed his college roommate, so he returns home. And then also October 1877, Sin is a young samurai in exile hiding from the imperial soldiers in a house behind the sword ferns. And I think there's a connection between these 2 characters, between the houses and the timelines. I actually am using my Spotify audiobook hours for this because it is opening week for my show, and I just think having an audiobook on deck is going to make the most sense. I think I'm also going to download Fever Dream by Elsie Silver on my Kindle to have that backstage. This was originally going to be a weekend vlog, but since I didn't get to like sit down and really talk about the books I was reading over the weekend, I think we're just going to extend it into this week. So this week, really, my priority is just going to rehearsal, and the show opens on Friday. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. We've put some fun PR stuff out about it, but that brings up something else I want to talk about for a second, and that is just like body insecurity, I guess. If you are not interested in hearing about this and want to skip ahead, please do. But I think that this is like a really, really niche thing for somebody who creates so much content where they have to look at themselves. Like, this is the version of me, like looking in the viewfinder, that I'm used to seeing. And like, this is the version of me that exists in my head. But then I see things like the pictures I took on my trip or like the PR videos, and there is not a link between that version of me and the version of me I look at so much. Like, I look at the PR video and I'm like, that's how my body looks. Okay. Didn't know that. And coming to terms with that is interesting. And I don't talk about weight and body image a whole lot on here, but I've lost like 30 pounds since January, but I don't feel like I see it. I feel it when I put clothes on, but I don't feel like I see it yet. And that is something I have struggled with my whole life. I have ulcerative colitis, and so there have been phases of my life where I have been like sickly thin. My body is not designed to be a super thin body, and so when I'm thin, I look sick. But like, also, I've gained a lot of weight because of medications. I had a back injury this year that caused me to lose a lot of the activity that I had built up. And right now I'm just feeling really encouraged to like walk and lift weights. So all that to say, I'm struggling a little bit with like the perception of me that other people might have. I know I'm super talented. I know I'm a really good actress. And there's like 2 things. People come to the show to see good acting, but like, they're also looking at you. I know they're gonna see good acting, but like, I'm like, are they gonna like looking at me? It's such a little weird like mind game we put ourselves in. Anyway, I have rehearsal in just a little bit. I'm gonna try and film a TikTok because I've fallen very, very, very behind on my TikToks. So that's the plan right now. And I will, of course, let you know when I have started one of these 2 books. It's also our last day of rehearsal, like not dress rehearsal. So tomorrow will be a costume day. Okay, I've talked for 10 minutes. Wow. Let's do a reading update. I still am on the first chapter of Fever Dream. That's just going to be my ebook whenever I have time to pick up an ebook. But that said, I have made it about 60 pages into Japanese Gothic, and I'm really enjoying this so far. And so far, it is living up to an isolated setting. The characters have not left the property in both timelines. So we are following a character named Lee in the current timeline, and his story is very interesting. He was an NYU student, and he has memories of cleaning up after killing his roommate, but he has no actual memories of killing his roommate. He doesn't know why he did it. He doesn't know how he did it. He just knows he was cleaning it up, and he like hauled tail out of there, got an Uber, got a plane, and has flown back to Japan and is living with his dad and his dad's girlfriend in this house. And you can tell just by the way Lee is described that he has some issues. He is very dependent on medicine that helps him sleep, and it feels like he's not really existing. He can't smell or taste anything right now, and he is attributing that to some psychological issues he has, which maybe that plays into why he remembers nothing about his roommate dying. But he sees this woman, I can't remember if it's in a mirror or in a window, and begins to like investigate the house. But as he's investigating the house, the like what he understands about the house is not lining up with like the actual like square footage and everything. I don't know if that's making sense. Like the floor plan of the house is not matching up to Lee's investigations. Does that make sense? I don't know. I have some suspicions about certain characters that we have met maybe being tied in to some other things. There's also a creepy scene with a raccoon and a maggot, and that will live in my head rent-free for a while. But then we're also following a past timeline with a girl samurai whose name is Sin, and her father raised her to be a samurai, but samurais aren't really recognized anymore, and her father went off to war and returned after a loss, which is like not the samurai code. So she kind of has some feelings about that. We don't know as much about her right now other than her family is kind of struggling, and they are also living in this house, but it is several centuries before Lee is living there, and she sees a man or a boy's face in the same mirror or window. So somehow I think these timelines are connected, but I haven't figured out how yet. The other thing that's really interesting is because Lee is taking all of these sedatives, all of these downers, he keeps talking about how life appears like a watercolor to him. And then when you look at the cover of this book, it is very watercolory. I don't know if that was intentional, but I'm really liking the imagery here. So I'm having a really good time with this. We had our first dress rehearsal tonight. My hair was like in ringlets and it's already kind of fallen out, but it was interesting being in these big pink dresses for the first time. I knew my dress was too long from the first time I tried it on, but it had not been hemmed or altered or anything yet, and I felt like a newborn horse in that dress, just like tripping everywhere. There's a scene where I have to like crawl across the stage on my knees, and I was just getting so tangled in the dress. It was so frustrating. There were a couple little slip-ups throughout the run, but overall I feel like we did a really good job, and we have 2 more nights of dress rehearsal before we open. So my plans for right now are to go do an everything shower because I need to self-tan tonight. I wanted to go to the pool so bad this week. My character says a line about how she's gotten too much sun on her shoulders and now they're all freckled. But I can't do that because it is raining all week long. So I'm gonna do self-tanner tonight, which means I need to like exfoliate and do all the things in the shower. And then I'm gonna get in bed and I think read some Fever Dream. I'm just in a really good mood today. Okay, I'm here for a quick update before I go to my final dress rehearsal. The curls are massive today. But I finished Japanese Gothic while I was cat sitting today, and I really enjoyed this, but I did end up giving it a 3.5. So let me explain. 2 timelines here. We're following Lee in the present, who is freaking out because he thinks that he killed his roommate in NYU, doesn't remember how, doesn't remember why, doesn't remember what he did with the body. He's also dealing with a very traumatic childhood. He is abusing sleeping substances as he's growing up, and he just wants to get away from the problem that he thinks he caused. So he goes to live with his dad in this old samurai house in Japan. We're also following Sin, who I believe is from the 1800s. It does not say. I cannot remember the exact timeline that she's from, but she is one of the last samurai that is still living. Her father very much abides by the samurai code and has raised her to also abide by this code. And they happen to live in the same house. So Lee and Sin are separated by centuries, but are connected through this house. And their connection goes a little bit further than just living in the same place across centuries, because they can see and interact with each other within the constraints of this home. So, Zelda, please stop, honey. Because of Lee's sleeping medication abuse, the lines between reality and this almost dreamscape world definitely blur a bit. And that was where my problem was, because I don't do well with like latching on to more abstract feelings and vibes in books. I'm very much like a person who needs concrete things. I need rules and then the society around them to like function by those rules. But because this like abstract world exists, it was hard for me to keep up with some of those things. I don't know if that made sense. I'm just like a very structured person, I guess. And so when structure exists but then is broken, I struggle a little bit. So I think it was a me problem and not a book problem, but the writing in here was gorgeous. I really enjoyed jumping back and forth between the two timelines because it kept me invested and interested and curious about what was going to happen in the other ones. Also, both characters explained their world feeling like a watercolor at times, and I just thought that that tied in so well with the cover of this book. I really was compelled to keep reading because I wanted to know what happened to Lee's roommate back at NYU, and we get enough answers to satisfy me, if that makes sense. So I also think that the audiobook narrator did a really good job at like having this dreamy, eerie quality to her. I want to read more Kylie Lee Baker because I read this book, and also I just ordered this from Aardvark without realizing that it was a special edition. Like, how gorgeous is that? I do think that there were some signed copies and I missed out on that, but I'm very happy to own this, and I think I will be reading Bat Eater soon. Speaking of Aardvark, I got my new box yesterday, and I went for a thriller this time because y'all know this has just been the year of me really, really enjoying and vibing with thrillers. And so I got The Anniversary by Alex Finley. Don't know too much about it, and I think I'm going to keep it that way. I'm really digging the primary colors on this cover. And I think my book of the month is supposed to get here today. It was supposed to get here yesterday, but it hasn't arrived yet. But I am about to hop around the corner to go to my dress rehearsal. But it is our grand dress. That basically just means like your final dress, and you treat it like the real thing as far as like timing and intermission timing goes, lighting, sound, all that. And I do think we have a small audience tonight. Our director invited a couple of his friends that cannot come to the actual show. And then we open tomorrow. I do think I'm going to end this vlog here because we have covered 4 books since this vlog started. So I did read Yesteryear, Best Offer Wins, Dissection of a Murder, and Japanese Gothic in this vlog, sort of. I know I just kind of recapped the first 2. I have not had a 5-star book yet this month. 3 of those books were 4 stars. 1 of those books was 3.5 stars. I'm so ready for a 5-star book, guys. So please leave me recommendations for a book that you think I will give 5 stars. And also, next week's vlog is going to be like a read with me during the run of a show type vlog. So if you have any questions about theater, about the specific show that I'm doing, or just any other questions, I can kind of treat this like a Q&A. Leave them in the comment box below. And happy amazing readathon. I can't believe we're more than halfway through this month, but I am having a great time. I've already read 6 books this month, which for me is better than normal. Yeah, I'm just really excited to be here. If you don't want to ask me a question, you just want to leave an emoji, leave me any kind of sword emoji for Japanese Gothic. And I will see you guys in another vlog very soon. Bye, guys.